it was not uncommon for me to be the only Black person in the room. And so I felt safety within the stage space with Raph Wittes, who was here at the time, who just recently left. I also had a very specific vision of what faculty looked like. You know, prior, my whole thought of what a faculty was, they were all white men, beards, vests, and that's exactly who I had up until 1990, when this tiny woman walked into my principles of marketing class. She was very petite, but she had a presence about her. And that moment made me realize what could be possible. That's when I realized how much representation mattered. She wasn't a Black woman, but just having a woman, because all of my professors up until that point had been men. And so I was so happy to see a woman at all, and it made me realize just how much representation mattered. That woman is now the dean of the College of Business and Economics, and she has, you know, she's now retiring. She's retiring on the 31st, and I just recently told her how impactful her presence, just having her enter the classroom that day, was on my entire sort of career. Kind of fast forward, you know, I've spent time in corporate. I came back, I used to lecture here, and then I was teaching here. And then in August of this past year, that same woman tapped me to be her assistant dean. So it's a complete full circle moment. You know, I was working, as Keiwana mentioned, I was working for Social Security Administration. I didn't have time to join a lot of clubs, which is probably one of my biggest regrets, but I was always working because I was paying for school. When she tapped me, though, again, it also has not gone unnoticed that I am the only Black dean, associate dean, assistant dean. I'm the only Black person of any kind, dean of any kind. And that is not lost on me at all. So the same way I was watching her in 1990, I know that I have students who are watching me. And the one thing that I've always been grateful for is that I've always been allowed to be my authentic self. I've been able to show up to work every day exactly who I am, with my dreadlocks, with my nose ring, with my tattoo, and on Fridays in my hoodie and my Timberlands. And it's never been a problem. I've always been allowed to be exactly who I am. And I don't take that lightly. And again, I know that people are watching me. I know they'll be watching me if I make a mistake. And I know they're watching me just when I'm in the room because of who I am. Not lost on me at all. So I know one of the things they wanted us to talk about is what kind of advice would you have? You know, imagine what's possible. I never in a million years when I came here, I never ever would have thought, one, I would be teaching here because I didn't have anybody that looked like me. She was the closest I got to it. And I never would have thought I would be the assistant dean here, ever. So I would encourage you to be yourself always, and remember who's watching you, remember who's in the room, network all the time. And again, even though I wasn't involved in a lot of activities, I still stayed connected. Those same people that I met in Sage, we still see each other at homecoming every weekend. Where's Kenny? Kenny's one of them. Oh, hugging everybody. Kenny's one of them, and we have stayed connected for the last 30 years because we were all we had. And so we moved through this campus together. So, you know, it does my heart good. I'm still teaching, and it does my heart good. In my last class for this semester, what used to be, you know, when I first started, I might have 1 or 2 Black students. Out of 15, I had 9 this semester. And so I've watched, I don't always notice the change because I'm here every day, but we've changed so much for the better. It's become a lot more inclusive. And I just encourage you to take advantage of every opportunity and remain your authentic selves along the way.
I'm going to keep it very, very real about my experience here. Again, my name is Yvette Clark. I'm currently working for the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. A lot of people don't know that that agency exists, but it's the workforce arm of the city. And I oversee the Employer Services Division, which is a group of individuals who work all throughout the city to do business engagement, job development, recruitment, job placement, and offer other industry solutions so that we can help impact the unemployment rate or help people find explore their careers and get a job and build a career. So when I came to Towson in '86, I intended to be on a 4-year plan. I was on a 5-year plan. I did not graduate until 1991. I will tell you an interesting fact about when I was asked to present a photo. I found my Towson ID. Back then when we got our IDs, it had our photo, it had our full social security number, and it had your date of birth. I have mine in my purse. So it was a lot different. You come into the union on the lower level, all you saw were credit card companies asking for you to sign up and get a credit card. I got plenty of them, no job. Fortunately, I did not have student loans. My father was the first of our family to go to college. He went to Morgan State, he went to City College and he went to Morgan State University. He was very active in his fraternity, Omega Psi Phi. And I was the second to go to college in our family until Towson State was it for me. I grew up, although most of my family's here in the city, but I grew up in Harford County. So I grew up in Harford County schools. In Harford County schools back then, there was nothing. I was always a minority. So when I came to Towson, it really wasn't that much different for me. When I came, I was in the commuter club. I did not stay on campus, but I had an apartment near the campus and I stayed there for the 5 years that I was in college. Again, I didn't have the burden of student loans because my parents saved for me to go to college. But what I did have the burden of, it's kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. So when I first started my college experience here, I wanted to be in accounting. It was business administration with a concentration in accounting. Accounting was not for me. And I can see that many years later because I need to be in front of people. I love people. If I'm not helping impact the lives of people, then I'm not being, I'm not living, in the life that I deserve or that I want. So I started out with accounting. It wasn't for me. I failed my accounting course. And I said, well, I still have a love for numbers and figuring things out. So I ended up getting a degree in business administration with a concentration in finance. But it took me 5 years to do that. And it was okay. Which is a lesson learned number one. It is okay if you do not know what you want to do right now. There are adults who do not know what they want to do right now, and I am in a position to help them do that career exploration or find out what they want to do even after they retire, and it is totally okay. The other lesson learned from that, you don't have to do just one thing. You can do 2 or 3 things. So I have 3 children that are in who have not completely finished college because they're working. I feel that this generation, most of the young adults that I interact with are entrepreneurs, and I fully promote entrepreneurism. But you got to start with your education. You have to have a job to build a career to leverage your own business. So with my children who are, have not completed their college education, I have installed upon them and lended my lesson learned that it's okay. You don't have to do one thing. You can be a journalist, you can be a nurse, you can be an accountant, or you can work in workforce development. And so I landed in workforce development. So I went during the 5 years being in the commuter club. I built a lot of fundamental relationships that I still have here 30 years later. And like she said, I go to homecoming every year. There's nothing on my calendar because I know that I'm going to be intentional about seeing all my great friends that I've had, the sisterhood, the brotherhood, every homecoming. Also found myself giving back to Towson by being a mentor. Lesson number 2. When I was here in Towson State University, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't really know where to get one, but there were resources are here for you to go and find a mentor. So right now I work with the MAPT program, and I've mentored young ladies to help them not only with just career exploration, but just your posture as being a leader and finding out what your strengths are and being able to put yourself in position to live the life that you want. So I have given back that way. So again, lesson number 2 was to make sure that you have a mentor, because mentors not only can just give you advice, but also resources. I'm very resourceful, again, with helping my mentees explore other resources within the city and outside the city, using my network to do so. And then I think relationships is the third thing that I would like to talk about. I talked about, you know, the sisterhood and the brotherhood, but during my whole tenure here at Towson State University at the time, I was in a relationship. And so I was with my boyfriend. We were, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend my whole time in college. And so when I got out of school, we got married and then we had kids. And now I'm here at 54 years old. And I kind of wish I had invested more time in activities and not in that relationship, and exploring other things that were here available to me at Towson State University at the time, because my network and my sphere of influence would have been larger. So that's lesson number 3. It's okay to be in relationships. Just make sure that you save time for yourself, right? Save time for yourself, and really explore what it is that would be a meaningful career path or a relationship path, and how you can give back. Because at some point, hopefully most of us will have children, right? And we want to prepare our children to live the life that they want and deserve, and know how to, and know what is available to them. So I am here, last plug, I am here also representing the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, because we have resources. People don't know that there is funding for apprenticeship. There are people who are here to help you with career development, finding your career. I have so many employers, but I don't have a talent pipeline. I met with Morgan State University to see how I can be an intentional partner by helping people get jobs, helping people identify funding, and especially even our small business community, as I noted. You go to college, you still want to have a business, there's resources for small businesses. So I'm here to get the word out and elevate who we are, the funding, the connection, the mentorship, and just like I said, my network is your network.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. All right. My name is Robert Cloud, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I love Towson State University, man. I had a great time. I'm from New York originally, so my background might be a little bit different maybe than folks, because I grew up in New York, grew up in Harlem, but I went to Catholic schools, and so I've been dealing with, you know, white folks or going to school with white folks all my life. So coming to Towson was not a big surprise to me. The surprise to me when I got to Towson was how many Black folks were just experiencing white folks coming to Towson. That was a different perspective for me as far as being adjusted. At that time, again, we're talking about the 80s. So, you know, just to give you perspective, you know, music was different. Just coming, I guess, finishing up with that Vietnam War and a whole bunch of other stuff. And there was a lot of community involved when I was at school with Towson. In fact, when I went there, this fellow sitting to my right, I'm just going to tell you, he inspired me when I got to Towson. He was one of the leaders when I first got to the campus, but I'll leave his story for him. We needed each other. There weren't that many Black folks. And so we didn't have any kerfluffles. There weren't any BS. We didn't have any problems because we needed each other. You might have had the occasional heartbreak, or I'm mad at you because you took my meal ticket or something like that. But we needed each other. And the main thing I'm seeing now with all you guys here is that you've got technology in your favor now. You've got ducats, you've got money in your pocket now. And so you may not think you need each other as much as you really do, but I'm telling you that you do. And what I'm saying is to be open to each other in that vein. Another thing about Towson that made it was special to me was, again, as I say, it was not that many Blacks, but the Blacks and white folks that I know got there got along very, very well. Some of my best friends were white at Towson. I didn't have a problem at all. We got along. I went to some of their affairs. They went to some of our affairs. And so what I also want to impart to you is this: take advantage of the cultural differences that you have here. You know, learn about other cultures, explore other people's events. College is going to be the best time of your life. I'm telling you right now. So use this time to explore, learn about other cultures, other people. Towson is a great place for that. Now, a funny story. So you've heard that, okay, let's say I went to China, lived in China, blah, 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 it's cool. How I got there is pretty deep. So like the sister here, I'm on a 5-year plan, not a problem, but I'm getting ready to graduate. I'm ready to get out of Dodge. So I'm like, okay, I want to take an elective. I'm looking over electives to get out of school. What am I going to take? Oh man, look, there's a Chinese course. Towson had offered an introductory Chinese course back in 1980. That's how avant-garde Towson was. So I'm getting ready to get out. So I said, cool, let me go ahead and take this course. I figure nobody's going to be in it. I'm going to get an easy B or something or other in it, right? So let me get out of here. Took that course, got out, graduated. Chinese teacher liked me, said you should go to Taiwan and study further. Make a long story short, I did. I'm an IT guy, so I'm a geek. So I like all that technology stuff. I'm a technical writer. Came back to the States, got jobs as technical writers, was in 9/11. 9/11. I was in building 2 in 9/11. And so make a long story short, I gave a speech at the United Nations. Someone approached me, would you like to go to mainland China? Blase, blase, blase. I took it up and I did. I ended up teaching there for 2 years. And I speak fluent Mandarin Chinese. I mean fluent. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go to Towson State University, man. Off of a lark, off of a last minute lark. The fact that they even had a course like that available, I'm telling you, take advantage of everything that you have here. This is a pretty good school in that regard. Otherwise than that, the last thing I'm going to tell you is going to come from an old school blackness type of thing. I'm going to try not to cry. Wherever you go, you represent your race. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you are representing Black people. And I can't stress how important that is. Not just for what you do at that time, but for the Black folks that are gonna come after you. And that's about it.
My name is Francis Leander Clay Jr. I came here in 1992, graduated in 1976. So I'm very proud that I came in as a freshman and graduated in 4 years. It took a lot of hard work to do that, but there were benefits to that. I didn't take a Chinese course because it was hard enough for me to pass English. Anyway, I have one message. Don't miss out on the opportunities here at Towson. Do not miss out on the opportunities here at Towson. The first thing I want to talk about is graduation. When you graduate, you should have a job lined up that falls in line with a career. That's the ultimate goal. It may not happen that way, but that should be the goal. When I came here, I was recruited from high school, and I had all kinds of offers everywhere. So I knew I was going to go to some college. I picked the college that I wanted to go to. I picked Towson. The reason why I picked Towson, it was the only school I could see where I could walk to my classes. Anyway, that's another subject. But I thought that would happen when I graduated. So I played basketball, I did all these things. I was on the Tower Light, I was on the President's Council, I was in SGA, I was a resident assistant. I started my chapter for Iota Phi Theta Incorporated. I did all these things. I was busy. I took advantage of every opportunity you could find here at Towson. I had great relationships with the administration as we worked through the struggles that we were facing that are similar to the ones that we see you all confronted with today. It's amazing, 50 years later, some of these things we're still dealing with. But I didn't prepare myself to graduate. That's the one regret. I could have done a better job. I actually had my first job was right down the road in Towson at John Deere, the company down there. Right. It was a Fortune 500 company right then there. Now, the real deal, you know why I did that? Because I knew everybody was graduating and they had a job all lined up, and I didn't. So I just saw there was an application, an ad in the paper for a janitor, and I took that job. I need the money, but I took the job. So on graduation day, I could talk to my peers and say, I'm working for John Deere. And I kept it moving. Don't ask me what I'm really doing. But I could have done better. I could have took advantage of the relationships that I had with the alumni, with my peers. And after a few weeks of this reality sitting in, I did just that. One of our teammates that had graduated ended up being head HR person at Maryland Casualty. I took advantage of that relationship and ended up getting my first job as a staff control analyst with Maryland Casualty. The point I'm trying to make is you have to be responsible for how you're going to come out of Towson. And you have 4, 5, or 6 years to prepare for that moment. So don't let a day go by that you haven't done something to prepare yourself for a job or a career. That's a fundamental reality of going to any university, not alone Towson. Don't miss out on the opportunity. I don't know if you all know each other, but I can tell you that Towson has some of the best people you'll ever meet in your life. The most good-looking people you'll ever meet in your life. I'm just being real with you. The people that I went to school with were talented, good-looking, smart, every last one of them. And we didn't take advantage of that. We didn't take advantage of him going and knowing Chinese. If I had known that when I went to China, I would have called him. He might have been over there when I went there. I went there 3 times. This is what we're missing when we talk about relationships. Don't miss out on the opportunity to get to know one another. Matter of fact, don't miss out on getting to know that smart person in your class, whether they are white, black, brown, or whatever. Because we have recruiters here on the stage, and we know they're going to get the best opportunities. They could end up being your boss, but that's not a bad thing. If they end up being a principal and you need a job as a teacher, and you went to the same school and they know you and you know them, that could be an advantage to you. You got to take advantage of that. Some of you who are in business, who are out there, may end up being an insurance person. You got an instant prospect list right here. Just think, if everybody bought from the same insurance person, what that person could do with the commissions and everything that they would get. I know some of you may not understand that fully, but I'm just saying, while you're here at Towson, don't miss out on the opportunity to get to know one another. And it was alluded to earlier, do not mix your professional and your private. Do not mix your professional and your private. Don't get sideways because you said something or something happened at a party or whatever, and then y'all end up being in the same industry and you won't talk to one another. I know that to be true. 2 of my roommates, 2 of my teammates end up working for the same company. Fortunately, we had the best relationship. Bobby Washington and me. Bobby Washington, for you don't know, he was on the championship basketball team. Me and him were top salesmen. My roommate, Jeff Ritter, was my roommate. He came to my wedding. All of us at one time were in the top 10 of sales at Johnson & Johnson. We were making 6 figures and more. Bobby Washington being the best, okay? And we, because of the relationship that we formed here at Towson, we were able to help each other navigate corporate America. In fact, my roommate helped me to get my interview and changed my life for me and my family. So I don't want you all to miss out on that. And I don't, and my counterparts who were peers in my dorms, they started businesses. They invited me to help, participate in businesses. And they don't look like knowing you. So don't miss out on that opportunity. The last point I want to make, do not miss out on the relationships that you can form with your administrators, staff, and teachers, and visitors who come to Towson. Don't miss out on that. Because you never know where these people are going to be. You never know who they're going to need to hire. And I will give you one example. When I was a freshman, Wayne Shelley, I put a picture of him. He was with President Fisher. President Fisher wrote me a personal endorsement that helped me to get my first job, okay? Now, when you got that kind of relationship, that's powerful. But Wayne Shelley was my night professor on a Tuesday and Thursday night. I took a 200 level course as a freshman, got no business doing that, on management theory, which was a lot of reading and reporting. He told me to drop the class. I wasn't that type of person to drop it. He gave me an opportunity, but he said, I'm not going to give you any freebies. You're going to earn this grade that you get. So he knew I played basketball. Fast forward, I'm working for Random House in Westminster. I was a management trainee. I wanted to go into sales. He knew, or somehow he found out that I was going to go into sales. He was given the opportunity. He was the vice president of finance here at Towson, right? He was given the opportunity to become the CEO of the first startup company for cellular telephones, the phones that you have right now. And he told me about what he had planned to do, to leave Towson, and he gave me the opportunity to go with him. It's a great story, but to make it short, here's the key. He said, do you want a salary or do you want stock? Do you want salary or do you want stock? Unfortunately, I had to take care of a family and I took the salary. But if I had taken the stock, the company that he went to be CEO was American Teleservices. American Teleservices were bought by Cellular One, and Cellular One was bought by who? Verizon. Say that again? I would have been, if you know how rich him and his family is, then you would know what the point. The point is, I had the opportunity, but I missed it. I could have done some other things. I could have talked to somebody about the opportunity, and somebody could just cover me until I got what I need to get done, and then we all could enjoy the fruits. But I didn't know. That's why I'm here today to tell you all, don't miss out on these opportunities. You never know what's going to come your way, and it can all happen here at Towson. So I wish you all well, and don't miss out on your opportunity.
It's on. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I'm Linda Morris. I'm a member of the class of 1969. I'm going to take that today. 1969. And my job here today is to make you appreciate the progress that Towson has made with Black folks since 1969. I want to give a shout out to my sister Judy. She was in the class of 1966, the centennial class. And I want to give a shout out to Jenna Mill, because Jenna has been my therapist since June. She made me She's helped me to reconcile the bad time I had here at Towson State College. So for 52 years, I held a grudge against Towson State College until this June, when I got a postcard inviting me to the class of 1970s reunion. Now, as you heard in the introduction, I don't consider myself, I'm not a part of 70. I came here in 65 as a 17-year-old from Edmondson High School in Baltimore City. I was born and bred in Baltimore City. I started going to school with white children right after the integration of school. So I was very comfortable going to school with white children at Garrison Junior High School. I was comfortable going to school with white children at Edmondson High School. But Towson was another, no. Towson was a very hostile environment for Black students in 1969. I have to say that. No, I wasn't called the N-word. But what happens is you come here, we came here. Judy was here. She didn't tell me, she always sees the bright side. Now, I don't always see the bad side, but you don't have to see the bad side to notice that when you sit down at a table, the white folk get up from the table. You go to, we didn't have a student union building, but whatever it was called, the student union, I guess. You go there for a nice meal or to relax between classes. And you just couldn't sit, you could sit at the table, but like I said, they would get up. So what we learned to do, there were 30 of us Black students here and 3,000 white students back in 1969. So we learned to operate as a unit. When somebody was getting out of class and we wanted to get together, we would send that person ahead to sit down at a table so that the white students would get up and we could have our table. So we learned that early. Some teachers were okay, but there were teachers here who were very subtle to let you know they really didn't want you here as a student because they didn't think you could make it. A teacher I had in geography, the geography and history of Maryland class, sat down, I was minding my business in Stevens Hall. And when we came, there were only about 4 buildings here, so this is tremendous. We had Stevens Hall, Van Bockelen. There was Lyda Lee Tall was the instructional school. They were just building the gym, and I think they had Vertical. They had just built that. So we didn't have that many buildings here. But so when we did come, the trading club. But anyway, that's the environment we were dealing with. I did have friends at Morgan. My girlfriends went to Morgan, and fortunately, I drove. I did have a car. So I would pick my girlfriends up in the morning, drop them at Morgan. Then I would come here and take my classes. And then I would go back to Morgan in the afternoon for my socialization. And I didn't realize how important socialization is. And all of this I'm learning in hindsight. When I came in June for the 1970 reunion, I had to park, we were told to park in the Union Garage. I parked in the Union Garage, I backed in, and I was watching all of these older white people in my age group go past my car. And something started to well up in me. This is in June. Started to well up in me. And I called Judy. I said, Judy, I don't think I can go in here. I don't think I can do this. I said, I'm looking at these people and I'm getting angry. So Judy, of course, being the little Pollyanna that she is, said, just pull yourself together, because I'm not the kind of person who does that. I'm a very tough person. And I was surprised that these feelings were still sitting in the pit of my stomach. So I said, okay, Judy, I'm gonna pull it together and I'm gonna go in here. So I went in and I met Gemma. She was at the buses and she was telling people, which bus to get on, you could get on. And she was very pleasant. And so I said, well, I'm gonna be nice for Gemma. I said, I'm not going to show myself today. So I got on the bus and we rode around the campus. And some of the people were very obnoxious. One went up to the black bus driver and said, is there any air conditioning on this bus? I said, oh my God, it's still the same. And so And then they were talking about the days of their panty raids and their glory days. And I sat on the bus, I said, I guess I'll make it, but I did make it. And so I met Jenna. Then one of the presentations was with Felicity Knox. And Felicity talked about Mr. LeBlanc, Mr. Whitney LeBlanc, who was the first Black teacher here. And she gave a link. I contacted her. I got a link to his oral history. He came here, I think it was 1967. And his oral history, if you have not seen his oral history, it will tell you what Towson was like in 1969. Well, in 67, 66 and 67. So he's the one, I took every class Mr. LeBlanc taught because I needed that connection with a Black person. Now, unlike your generation, you have to understand, my generation now of Black, I think we're a little different. I don't think that we need to see people who look like us to know what we can do. We would go to the movies every Saturday. We see cowboys, we see everybody. And we just figured, you know, if we, whatever we wanted to be was on that screen. We didn't care if they were white or Black or whatever. So we didn't need that. But we do, as Black folks, we need to feel comfortable. And I did not feel comfortable here, so therefore I was at Morgan a lot. People thought I graduated from Morgan, I was there so much. But I didn't. I graduated from Towson. I had some pleasant times here. I'm gonna tell you these 3 stories that I'm shut up. One pleasant time was that I got to meet Dionne Warwick when she came for homecoming. They needed somebody to wait on her. And who best to be the maid? So anyway, they weren't going to be the maid. So someone came over to us and said, we need somebody well, really, they want you to be a gopher for her. And to get whatever she needed before she went on stage. And I was just, she had just started, not just started her singing career. She had probably been out for a while. I think she had Don't Make Me Over by then. That might have been her big hit. And she was just so tiny. You see her now, you can't think of her this way. But she was very cute. She was like a little cat. She was real tiny. She was in Black. And so I went and I said, Miss Warwick, is there anything you need? Anything I can get you? And she said, oh, I just need some water. She only needed a pitcher of water or something like that. So I just had to go and get that for her. She was very thankful. She was very nice. And she performed well. You'll see her picture was on one of the slides up here. And I have it out there. I brought some yearbooks so you could see it. So that was, I love that. Also, at Judy's graduation, she had the centennial graduation. So they needed someone to go in the bell tower to ring the bell 100 times. Now, that wasn't me. They knew better than to ask me. But they did have people on work study. So they asked a guy by the name of Calvin Jones to go to the tower to ring the bell. So the day of Judy's graduation, I was very glamorous that day. I know you can't believe it now. Oh, and by the way, I wore these shoes because I knew if you were going to be sitting at my feet, you would need something to keep you awake. So that's why I wore these shoes. So anyway, when I came to Judy's graduation, Calvin got me, when I pulled up, because I drove myself, I must have driven myself. And so he came up and said, I need some help. I said, well, Calvin, what you need? He said, I've got to go up in the bell tower and ring the bell 100 times. He said, I can ring the bell. He said, that's not a problem. He said, but I do need somebody to count to 100. And I said, yeah, that's a line, girls, I'm telling you. But no, we were like brothers and sisters on this campus. That's how tight we were. I don't remember any romances. We were just very well, we were real friends. And so anyway, so I said, okay, I'll do it. Now I'm dressed in a white dress, a roller brim, a wide straw roller brim hat, and white shoes. And I was looking really clean and good. And so I never thought what it would be like to climb a dusty old bell tower. So we get to the tower, and we pull down. You have to pull down these steps to climb up. We get there, and I'm okay as long as I have a ladder or whatever. Then we get to the final part where you had to go up into the tower. These were slats that were into the wall, and you only had about that much space between the wall and the slat, like that. So I had to take my shoes off, and in my heavy stockings. When I didn't even run my stockings, I was so proud. I stayed clean throughout the whole thing. Went up in the tower, counted to 100, and we got a wonderful view of the campus. So that was a pleasant experience that I will never forget, because that was probably the best time I've had here at Towson. And my last story I want to tell you about is participating in Mr. LeBlanc's first play that he put on, and people all around, he directed. Mr. LeBlanc had come here. I found out from looking at the oral history. He was brought here to assist Dr. Dick Gillespie, who started the theater department, with that department. And he had asked for people to be in the play. And since I had a car, and you had to be out here late at night rehearsing. Since I had a car, I didn't mind staying, but he needed other Black people. It was a play, a civil rights play. And it had tones of the civil rights murders of Cheney, Schwartz, and Goodman. I believe their names would be 3 young men who were going down to Mississippi to register voters. 2 white guys, well, Jewish guy, white guy, and Black guy. They were found dead. I think it was in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And this play kind of was the same reference. And so the Ku Klux Klan, I just found this out from looking at his history, Mr. LeBlanc's history, picketed this play. They didn't want Mr. LeBlanc to do this play. And the FBI came to Towson. According to Mr. LeBlanc's history, he said the FBI came to President Hawkins, who Mr. LeBlanc said hated him, came to President Hawkins, and President Hawkins wanted Mr. LeBlanc not to do this play. He wanted him to pull the cord on it, and Mr. LeBlanc said he wasn't going to do it. We had put a lot of work into that play. I even got my girlfriend from Morgan to be in the play because we didn't have enough Black people. And just to note, one of the people in the play was an actor, a guy who went on to become a Hollywood actor, Dick Schultz. He played in one of the characters he played, I think, was in the A-Team, one of the main characters in the A-Team. I forget his name in the show, but that was one of Mr. LeBlanc's success stories. But anyway, so we put the play on. It was over the weekend. I think we did 3 performances. And the first night, the FBI sat in the audience, and the Klan. I put the article out there about the Klan. I didn't even know about that article until I saw Mr. LeBlanc's history. So that was the environment for Towson when I came. So it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't openly hostile, but it can still be hostile, you know, in terms of being covertly hostile. People who are cold, who don't reach out to you. So I had a class where, well, that's what I was going to tell you. One professor sat beside me in Stevens and said to me, you know, Black students don't do well here. He said, because generally you can't pass the humanities. He's talking about you can't do the writing. Well, I had no problem with that because I had an A in my English composition here the first semester. Now the first semester of my sophomore year, I almost flunked out because I guess this had just gotten to it. And that's why it was so good to have Mr. LeBlanc come here, because that gave me an anchor and I was able to work myself out of academic probation to be able to graduate. Now, another incident, this is the last thing I want to say. I had a professor, the class, and he taught the class with this other professor. And I'm in the class and we're talking about the history and geography of Maryland. And so they were talking about Garrett County that day. I'll never forget this. I'm the only Black person in the class. I guess I'm about 18. And so they just bring up out of the blue, you know, there are 8 Blacks in Garrett County, and 4 of those are in jail. Now that's a very harsh thing, you know, and I'm just sitting there stunned, you know, not knowing, you know, just not really knowing what was going on, because I had not been raised in Baltimore City to consider race in that manner. That you might not believe that, but you gotta remember, we didn't have television telling us all the time how bad the racial situation was. Having grown up in Cherry Hill, we just came out into the world kind of, we knew it was there, our parents knew it was there, but our parents protected us from the environment. So when we did come out into the world and we saw some of this stuff, it was just quite shocking how people could act so bad. When we saw the demonstrations at Southern High School when integration occurred, the parents were saying things to the Black children going there. So my experience was not as great, but Towson did put me in a very good position professionally to compete for the jobs that I did have. And I do want to thank Towson. I have since reconciled my feelings about Towson. And Jenna, I am going to become a donor. I used to tell when people would call me about donating, I would say, you expect me to donate to that school? Do not mention Towson to me. And I hang up. But I'm going to start a donation to Towson. I'm going to take it out of my current job. I'm going to add monthly. I will be sending you a contribution. And that's my story.
Can we give our elders another round of applause?
Oh, now they want to tell the truth.
I think let me just say, May 5th, 2023, my fraternity will be 50 years old, and I had planned to tell the stories that you are referring to the way you're doing it then, but I'll just give you some insight to what she was saying. One of the reasons why I became a reporter for the Tower Light was that there was a editorial that was anonymous that simply said, why do we need Black students? This is a white school. This is a white school.
What year was that?
This was in 1974. Okay. And I work with the administration to combat that. I think the group that we were with were more, let's figure out how we can address these issues head on. We didn't want to protest, we didn't want to fight, but we didn't want to leave things unaddressed. And that's why when you see the United Front Against Racism, the workshop, we helped put that together. We went with white students, Black students, students from all race, Jewish, and our strategy was to sit down and listen to both sides to see if we can figure out, is this just a small group of people or is this something bigger than what we think? And we got a lot out of that. We began to understand why people were the way they were, and they got to understand where we were, and they knew that there was a line that we were only going to take if you didn't change, and they knew that, hey, this wasn't appropriate. But the reality is that these things were occurring at Towson to the point that there was a cartoon that had a Ku Klux Klan comic figure with BSU on it. Matter of fact, when we started our fraternity, there were challenges all over the place of why we should be on campus. So this is nothing new. I think that what your generation has to do is find creative ways to address what you feel is opposition to what you're entitled to as a student. That's probably the best way I can put it. You're entitled to have a great experience at Towson, but you got to take ownership of that, working with the administration to create an environment, not only for yourself, but for other students to come. And I hope that anything that I've done has helped create the environment that you all are experiencing right now. I know the tribute that we're going to have for the Divine Nine on Saturday is a perfect acknowledgement of what we had to go through, because the fraternities are the one that helped created the social environment that proliferated over time. It was my fraternity that held the first party at Scarborough in the basement. It's quite an experience. But we're talking about 1973, the first time we ever really got together to do something like that on campus. So I just wanted to add to what you were saying. I hope that what we were doing made it easy so a student wouldn't have to come through and experience, or if they did, they had some place to go, which would have been the BSU, the Culture Center. Some people might ask, why are these things here? It's because these other forces are out there and we encounter them, and not everybody has the talent, the awareness, the astuteness to deal with it. And they shouldn't have to feel intimidated because of a few people. No, we need to silence the few who step up to try to take over the masses. So I just wanted to add to that. So.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, can we give a warm round of applause to our elders? I do want to take a moment and introduce our moderator. The freeway freed him. He made it safely. Ulysses Stretch Garrett has been thriving in the music radio industry for 23 years by getting his first big break in radio at the age of 20 while still a junior in college. A true lover of R&B and classic hip hop, he says that music is the perfect remedy for any ailment. Stretch has held previous positions at Yahoo Music, AOL Music, Atlantic Records, and BET.com, and has graced the airwaves on the radio in Baltimore, Cleveland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and DC. A love for music and storytelling has prompted Stretch to venture into the literary world. He states, "A great song and story go together like a hand in a glove. And I am just hoping my characters and stories give folks the same feelings of hope, love, and optimism they gave me creating." Stretch is originally from Baltimore, Maryland, and a graduate from Towson University, where he earned his bachelor's degree in mass communications in 1998. He can be heard every Sunday on the historic WHUR 96.3 FM in Washington, D.C. from 2 to 7 p.m. He currently resides in Prince George's County, Maryland. Please welcome to the stage, Stretch. And if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of your story, followed by his story, we will open up the floor for questions to engage with our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, panelists. Man, so it's funny coming back up here on this campus, because in the 90s, it wasn't like people like you all had it. So I thank you all for the strife and things that you had to go through in order to make my experience a little bit more tolerable. Although when you was talking about how we all had to find ways to get together, and one of the important things to me was I was a commuter student as well. So I transferred in. I was at the University of Maine at Fort Kent, where I played basketball. And then I came down to Towson. I was like, I love it here, you know. But then I realized, wait a minute, it's not as different as University of Maine at Fort Kent, where I was one of 5 Black students up there. And so coming here, we had to find our ways and our places to hang out. And every time I come back here, I always just looking at one little corner where the benches used to be. And if anybody knows where the benches were, like that's where we always used to gather. And it makes my heart just, it hurts me, because those some great memories there, but they're gone now. They took them away. But my time here was definitely one of a little ups, a little downs. But for one thing, I learned who I was. I got a sense of finding me while I was here, being that I was in radio. you can always find me in that radio production room at any time that I was, and you were talking about relationships. So I made sure that I had great relationships with a lot of my professors. So they gave me sort of like carte blanche. But even though I was taking classes, but I was already on the radio in Baltimore at V103. And so for those, I mean, a lot of you guys aren't even gonna know what that is, but that was a heritage radio station in Baltimore for many years. And so at 19, while I'm still taking classes with students and they're learning how to be a radio personality, I was already on the radio on Saturday mornings. And, it was a wonderful experience. So that I take those things to say that Towson definitely ingrained a lot of wisdom, a lot of integrity within myself. And it also, to piggyback off of what you were saying also too, is about relationship and the building of relationships, because without those relationships that I had with faculty and other students, I wouldn't have been able to matriculate my way through the university like I thought, the way that I was able to, and graduate early and then go on about my business. But with that being said, let's open it up. If you all have any questions for the panelists, just if you can come up to the front. There's a mic right there. Sorry.
Hello. All right. Good evening. My name is Marvin Brown. I'm a public relations major. My question goes to you, ma'am. You talked about like being a part of like the first play that Professor LeBlanc had. I'm the founder and president of the Black Theater Troupe right now at Towson. And so it was like a full circle moment for me, because like I was blessed to have an advisor at the time, an intern, adjunct professor. She was here. She helped me a lot with the foundation work, to the point like my organization was sponsoring a through credit course, but then the pushback that we got from the department was incredible. It was a type of like systematic oppression never seen before or witnessed. And so in you telling that story, the fact that like the FBI came to like just monitor Black expression is.
Well, they came to let him, to protect him.
Yeah.
That's why they came, to tell him.
Yeah.
Intelligence that the plan was going to be marched. So they came that night to be in the audience to protect him if need be.
That's wow. Yeah.
You have to look, find this.
Yeah, I found the link. I was blessed to receive the link, so I'm gonna watch it tonight. And I just wish I knew about its history even beforehand. But my question for you is like, during that time when there was such I think minority doesn't even express the word, the demographic that the Black people took up during that time at Towson. How did you even? Because in college, that's the time, at such a point in time, to finding your identity. How did you? You found it at Morgan. So how did you remain a pachyderm in the classrooms? Like, how did you remain that like tough skin, like dealing with those microaggressions that you talked about?
I knew my mother and father had paid their money. They were expecting me to graduate, so I had to keep coming here. It was the tuition was like $100 a semester. We had to scrape that. We had to take out loans to pay that. So I knew that they wanted me. They knew I could do this. They knew, and my mother would keep sending me back. I had a beef with the dean of students, Mr. Dean Oriel Murphy, and I wasn't speaking to her. My mother sent me back to apologize to her because I was, as she said, acting ugly. I'm a middle child, so I've been doing that all my life. But anyway, so that's it. You knew your parents had this expectation for you, so you just had to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
My mother wasn't gonna let me transfer to Morgan. My mother was so proud that Thurgood Marshall, because he had gone to Douglas High School. She wasn't in his class. She said, we're gonna help make this a success. So this is why she sent me and Judy here, because she wanted to integrate. We were gonna take advantage of the education that she hadn't gotten as a product of the Eastern Shore of Virginia. You're going to this school.
Well, I appreciate your resilience on behalf of all the Black student body. That's really brave. shout out to Black mothers.
What's your name, my man? And
My name is Marvin Brown.
what year are you?
Well, let's see. Okay. I might be on the 5-year program myself.
It's all right, man.
But I'm studying mass communications with a track in public relations with a minor in theater.
That's what's up. Let's talk, man. Let's talk.
Yes.
Hey. All right. Any more questions? Everybody, don't be afraid now. It's your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kanika Jackson. I am actually a lecturer here at Towson in the Communication Studies program. This is my 3rd year, and I'm working on my doctorate actually right now at Morgan State University with Lisa. And my doctorate actually, I'm looking at for my dissertation, Black alumni who went to PWI, such as yourself, which is why I'm here this evening. And one thing I would love to hear from all of you, I'm sorry, please remind me of your name. Yes. Linda. So Linda, you gave me a glimpse of some things that you were taught before you arrived here at Towson, but I would love to hear from the rest of you. What were some things that your parents and guardians taught you about being Black, about coping with racism that influenced your experience once you arrived here at Towson?
So great question. So for me, my father, who's my late father's passed, was extremely instrumental in who I am. And my mother was very, you need to assimilate. So she had me in riding camp and sailing camp and hiking camp. So I was comfortable in any space. Except for the very first day I was caught off guard because I was coming from an all Black school, but it was easy for me to go back to, okay, let me pull from those other experiences where I was the only. My father, however, was very anti everything white. You know, he would have been 96 years old if he were still alive, and he was from a different time. He didn't want to assimilate to anything. I still don't know how they ended up together, but he instilled at a very early age in me that there was not a single space that I did not deserve to be in. So I've always moved through life. I've never suffered from imposter syndrome. I've always felt like when my siblings were all like, why are you going there? Why are you going there? My response was always, because I can, I'm allowed to. And I think, I was motivated to be where my father could not. And my siblings to this day are still like, I can't believe, you're still at Towson. And every time something else happened, I'm like, why are you still at Towson? Don't you want to be where you can be celebrated and not tolerated? But for me, it's what can I do with the experience that I have, because there are people here that need that push, that need an ally. I didn't have allies when I was here. You mentioned how there was the microaggressions. I didn't have the vocabulary to articulate what they were, but it was outright. For my calculus professor, he called me everything but Lisa. I was, give it to the colored girl, give it to that one. I was everything but Lisa. And that was in 1990, so we're not talking about 69, we're talking about 1990. It was still going on. And to be honest, some of that residue from Towson State 1.0 is still here. And so the students that are here now need an ally. And so, to answer your question, what was instilled in me is I deserve to be here. I have a right to be here. And I'm so thankful for everyone that paved the way with the BSU and all the places that we found safety in. But we still have a lot more work to do. And we can't do the work if we're not at the table, which is why it was so important to me when she asked me to be the assistant dean, to give me an opportunity to at least be at the table, because I know I deserve to be there. So if it were not for my father, I probably would not have the resilience that I do. He was like, you're a Johnson, you go in there and you do what Johnsons do. And that's, I've always been able to navigate and not think twice about it.
Same thing for me. I'm not sure if you were here when I started. I grew up in predominantly white schools, K through 12. So there was no transition for me. My parents were very intentional about making sure that money was not an option and all I had to do was go out and be great and be myself. And so I do the same thing for my kids. It was an easy transition because I was always used to being the only one. And I was confident enough that I can demonstrate my abilities to navigate through any situation.
I just echo her situation, the same here. The biggest thing I can tell you for me was not only from the parents, but being able to go to school and compete with white kids since it just was nothing, no biggie for me. And we're talking, again, I'm National Honor Society, all that other good stuff, all right, it's fine and dandy. But I just never felt that I was different. Now, was I called nigga or was I called something like that before? Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie about that. But it never ever hit me that I was less than anybody. It just never hit me.
That's a great question, and good luck with your work in that area. I think it's important. I'll first say my mother and what she did for me and the sacrifices. I had to graduate. She didn't graduate from high school, and in her way, she made a path for me to go to college. So deep down inside, that nothing was going to get in the way of that. Nobody. Now, I grew up in Philadelphia, gangs and everything. So, in Philadelphia, Italians are here, Jews are here. Everybody had their territory, but nobody discriminated against me because I was Black. When I came to Prince George's County and I was the only one in my junior high, and George Wallace was running for president, I found out what racism was like, okay? And I didn't handle it well. A boy from Philadelphia dealing with gangs, I was fighting. And I knew that reality wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go. Then I moved to Montgomery County, where I went to high school, and I played basketball. I knew fighting wasn't going to get it, so I tried something else. And I think that something else manifests itself through competing in sports. So coming to Towson, what I had was team mates that helped me to navigate the realities of who was who and who was doing what. And my teammates would come to my rescue for something that was not right, or they would show me a way around it and I would do the same thing for them. But when we competed to win, winning was the number one objective. And we let all this other stuff go by the wayside. And so I've always taken that as a lesson to find a way to win and to help other students to win. How can we win the game? I became the minority director in the SGA to figure out how to send money over to the BSU. Somebody had to get on the inside to figure out, do we have money? So that was my whole strategy of becoming the minority director with the SGA, was to see where the budget and be a voice. Somebody, who said be at the table? You said, I was at the table and I was able to direct things to the BSU. Nobody understood what I was doing, but that was my strategy. And when I saw how that worked, that took me into corporate America, and I keep doing the same thing. So thank you for the question.
All right, we have time for one more question. One more question. Anybody? Come on.
Good. Okay, I'll just leave it. Good evening. My name is Lazrat Lowell. Currently, I am a junior studying marketing. And in like great timing with talking about BSU, I'm also the president for BSU for this current year for 2022 and 2023. And so I kind of, if you remind me of your name, sir, I don't remember it. Yes, you. Francis Clay. So you, in your work of like starting and like directing money, can you like everyone in how the BSU contributed to your experience at Towson, but then also specifically your time starting the organization and getting it up and running? Yes.
Well, it starts with an attitude of knowing that this is your school. You pay your money, you're like every other student. And the SGA represents all students. And so you're entitled to, so if there's a pie, you're entitled to some of the pie. And if you don't see part of the pie coming your way, you have to speak up. But you just can't go out there and ask for it because the process inside the SGA is not set up for, hey, just give me some money. No, you have to justify why you need the money and why and how it can be benefit not only to you, but to the entire student body. That's how it has to be positioned. Okay. So when the BSU, when we were coming along, we had just got an office, we were trying to get books, we were trying to get activities. We didn't have a budget. So it's nice to have a room, but we didn't have a budget. So when I was negotiating, it's just like anything else. If you're on a board or anything, you had to find people inside the student government who would see your side of the issue, invite them over to the BSU, tell them what you're about, because what it comes down to is a vote. There are certain members in the SGA, and the vote goes down. Do we want to give so much to the BSU? You've already done the work to position a positive vote for your cause. You follow me? Now, a side thing of that is to get a relationship with the SGA president, because that person has to navigate the politics of their organization, because he's got to figure out how to smooth it over. Because as I told you, we were dealing with an attitude that there were people who believed that Black students shouldn't be at a white school. So why are we giving money to Black students when they shouldn't be here from the, that was the attitude. And we knew we had to fight that battle just to start to get entitlements that we as students deserve. And so I don't know what your politics are right now, but I'd be more than happy to help you with how to do this. But I can tell you that if you learn how, when I talk about don't miss your opportunity, if you learn how to do this successfully, you'll be doing this in your career. It's the same thing. It's building relationships, coming up with a cause, justifying that, try to find a budget, get that budget approved, and it's all a matter of getting enough people on your side to make it happen.
Can I add to that? Because it's what you're describing as a real life situation when you do go get a career and a job. I'm a funder where I work also in the Maryland Mayor's Office of Employment Development. So people are always asking for money. And one of the things that's critical, everything that he said, but you have to demonstrate an outcome. You are not going to get any money unless you can, yeah, you have a great idea, you know this is going to work, you get buy-in. Buy-in is very important, right? The politics are very important. Having a strategic plan is very important, but you have to demonstrate some outcomes. And that's how you're going to get the confidence of getting your initial funding and then repeat funding. So have some outcomes, pilots, start with something small, whatever it is that you want to do. You know, create the process, make sure you have some outcomes. So when you go in, you're stronger and the possibility of getting what you want is there.
Throw this in. Look at SCORE. There's just something for retired businessmen here now, and it sounds funny, but you have a resource there. Talk to them about budgeting, promotion, campaigning, and you'll be surprised how much information you can get as well.
Can you like is it SCORE like SCO? Okay, cool.
It's a resource that's just wonderful. You need business, and even for you guys who are in school, you're business majors. You want to know what the real world is like. How do I do a budget? How do I do this? Check out SCORE. And sister here works for the city. You should be familiar with SCORE. So she's a good resource right here. After you finish this meeting, I would just kind of grab her and ask her for as many business cards as she has.
And grab them too.
Yep. And there's people, yep.
Yeah.
And another thing we talk about in terms of resources, you know, you can do school exchanges. You can take classes at Morgan. You can take classes at Hopkins. You can take classes at Goucher. I'll even tell you what, you can take classes at Harvard or Yale. You can do exchange programs here. And if you really want to get deep, you can even exchange internationally, where you can, while you're at Towson, get the Towson graduate, but go to school in another country, in Paris or England or something like that. So again, keep your mind open to the opportunities and ask. You'll be surprised what you can find here.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I think that concludes our presentation for today. Thank you for being a part of Sitting at the Elders' Feet. If you can give our panelists once again another round of applause.
Who is in business? In business major? How many I have? 1, 2, 3. I got 3 books. I want you to come down. I'll give you one of my books. I have a book on leadership and I have my memoir, which I like to share. And let's give applause to the audience.
Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes. Thank you guys for coming out. Oh, you have something? Oh, hold tight, I'm sorry. Oh, Kenny, where's Kenny?
I'm gonna use this if you don't mind. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be very short.
Do your thing.
Look, I'm gonna be like Jennifer Lopez. As Jennifer Lopez always tells her last husbands, I won't keep you very long. No, seriously, here's the deal. I want to thank all of the panelists who are here because they don't have to be here, right? But they came here so they could pay it forward. So I really appreciate all of you for coming out tonight and sharing so many pearls of wisdom to all of our students and alum. I want to thank the students for coming out and listening to our panelists because, again, when I was here, I didn't have this, right? And I wish that I did have something like this because this would have been a great resource to share with me so that I would have a better understanding of how to navigate through not just Towson, but life, right? Because a lot of us just don't know. And we sometimes want to ask questions and we just don't know who to talk to. Here are the people that you can talk to. You've got the resources. You've got staff members, Lisa, you know, you've got Dr. Hurt, you've got Brian, you've got all these folks here. Take advantage of Laverne, I'm sorry. So it's Michelle, we've got all these folks that are here. You need to take advantage of them, okay? And I guess the bigger piece out of this is, if you've heard most of the thread out of this, is about networking. One thing that we don't do is network. We do a horrible job of networking. We think when somebody's handing a card, that's our piece of networking, but you got to follow up. You got to start talking to the people and say, hey, I'd like to talk with you. And it's not about what can you get out of it? What can you also share with that person? Because you never know what you might be able to help out with. So I say all that to say, I thank everyone that came together to make this a reality. I want to thank Keiwana for coming up with the idea and making this happen. So let's give a big round of applause for Keiwana. Thanks for Stretch, for WHUR. And also I want to do a little plug. I know you don't do it, but I'm going to do it. Last Request, he has a book out. And it's a wonderful book. You need to get that book. It's a wonderful book. But I just want to thank everybody for coming out. And I want you to take advantage. Don't leave out of here without getting some cards. I'm serious about that, because one thing you'll notice is the people that are not here, they're not going to take advantage of anything because they're not here. You're here. So you have an advantage. You need to talk to each person here, get their information, and you need to follow up. You need to say, hey, can I have an informational interview with you? Can I talk with you about some other things? Make certain you take advantage of this because this is a great opportunity, right? Frank, where'd you come from? You actually flew in from Atlanta, right? Okay, so I mean, heck, we know where he came from. He came from the Orient, right? And all these others here. So I'm just saying this to say that we need to take advantage of their time because they don't have to be here. And I want you to take advantage of that. So as soon as we finish up, you need to talk to these individuals and make certain that you get all of the information from them. So again, thank you all for coming out. We would certainly appreciate that. If there's anything I can do to help you, please give us a call.
I just need 2 more minutes of your time. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you. Thank you. Please join me again in thanking our elders for sharing their stories with us this evening. Miss Linda, I think you left something out of your story because rumor has it that Mr. LeBlanc was easy on the eye. So that would probably encourage anyone to take all of his classes. To Miss Yvette, she took my call while she was in the hospital. Her grandbaby had just been born. So I want you all to understand how committed they were to being here today. To Lisa, you mentioned that students are watching you. Staff are watching you as well. We're watching how you move, how you navigate things. So I thank you and appreciate what I've been seeing. Thank you. To my brothers in Greek, your vision created so many opportunities for our students here. There were some fraternity members here in the audience. They had to leave because they are participating in Dance to Madness, but please know that members of your chapter were here, present, and accounted for. Oh, what a time we had this evening. I remember sitting at my grandfather's feet, listening to him tell war stories and how he met my grandmother. And while his version was a little different, the feeling that I had listening to him is the same feeling that I hope you all walk away feeling. So I thank you. I appreciate the emotions that stirred up in you, Robert. And as a Black man, I encourage you to continue to let them flow. Feel every emotion that comes up and express it however way you see fit, whenever you see fit, unapologetically. So thank you for that. A heartfelt thanks to all of you for joining us this evening. I know there are so many things happening. Some folks are going down the hall to the Dean's Banquet. I hope our students join us at the parade. They will be in Tiger Plaza in 2 minutes. And then I hope all of you have the opportunity to join us at CQ for Dance to Madness. A recording of our time here will be available on the Office of Inclusion and Institutional Equity's YouTube channel in the coming days, and a link will be shared in TVAA's Facebook group. Again, a special thanks to Stretch for being here. You made it. I appreciate you, my brother. I see the red hanging from you. Again, all Greek love. Your experience is and your presence is valued and appreciated. And I am so grateful that you chose to share it with us today. Again, I hope to see you all at one of the events taking place later this evening. A special invitation next week to the Human Library, another program happening out of my area. The Human Library is a project that provides space and opportunity to engage in conversation, using it as an opportunity to debunk stereotypes and prejudices. It will take place in University Union, Ballroom A, on Wednesday, October 26th from 11 to 3. Thank you all again. Enjoy the rest of your evening on purpose. Ashe.